It's good hanging out with you, man, talking running backs.
For sure, man. Well, we definitely want to talk about the running backs. We've been going through, this series of previewing all the different position groups, and I knew I just had to bring you on for the running backs because you
Right.
did that deep dive, which I found really impressive. And so I just want to talk to you quickly here about the running backs. One of the things that I've mentioned here a lot on the show is, it's here recently in the past few years, we've seen LSU kind of solidify themselves with one main guy. Last year it was TDP. Of course, the year before it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And you bring Frank Wilson back, and we know from his years being here at LSU that he has been a running back by committee type coach. And I think we're going to see more of that. And I think that actually plays well for LSU this year because it doesn't seem like they really have that one main guy. I mean, I know there's been a lot of questions about John Emery and is it going to be Noah Cain? And then here's come Armani Goodwin, looked really good in the spring game and here recently in camp. So I think it actually bodes pretty well for LSU that it seems like they're going to be this running back by committee football team. So what do you have to say to that, Carter? I mean, does that seem like it's going to be the case? It seems so.
Yeah, so what I'm about to say isn't going to come off really well for a lot of LSU fans, but I'm just going to say what Brian Kelly said in a press conference, that there's not a Leonard Fournette in that room. And obviously there's not. Fournette's probably the best running back of the modern era. But the point he was making was there's really not a special running back in that room. Now, that is not a put down at all. And I think a lot of people would perceive it as that. But the truth, Zach, is, and I started, diving deeper into this, and, we did a full week of running back content on Power Hour LSU. And what I found to be very interesting is not many running backs really move the needle. Not many running backs really do matter. It is more about the byproduct of the play call and the play design and how well does the offensive line block for you. Those are more important factors in who is running the ball, except for when you have a Leonard Fournette back there or a Jeremy Hill or a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, guys that are truly transcendent with the football in their hands, which means it is more important for your running back to be reliable or good or someone that you could trust. So I know right now this is looking like a team that's going to have Noah Cain, who honestly isn't the most explosive runner just based on what we've seen during his time at Penn State. You have Josh Williams, who's a former walk-on, and you have Armani Goodwin. The one thing you can really say about, the two former running backs that we mentioned there, Williams and Cain, is that they're very reliable, right? Yeah. They're going to run the right play, especially Josh Williams, who has been very injury-proof during his time at LSU. So, what we need to do as far as running backs are concerned is really rethink the position. So you're a little bit younger, Zach, right? So what's funny is if you are in your later 30s and your 40s or in your 50s and you're watching this right now, you grew up looking at running backs the same that you probably looked at most quarterbacks, right? Especially if you're an SEC fan, right? The biggest stars were Herschel and Bo, Emmitt Smith mixed in there. And then I know it's not SEC, but you had Barry Sanders and all that. College football is more of a running back sport, right? Now that the sport is more obviously pass heavy, the impotence, did I use that word correctly? I'm not sure. The importance of how special your running back is probably isn't as important as you once thought it to be. Now, that doesn't mean that that special running back play doesn't help you. It does. It's just that you can win without it a lot more than you think. So, yes, it's a little alarming that Brian Kelly says, hey, none of these guys are special, but it is assuring that he said that all of them complement each other really well. So that's very important.
Well, I mean, to that point, I think it's really good that you have an outstanding wide receiver room. Now, obviously, you got to figure out quarterback, but when you have the depth and the talent at wide receiver, that you do, especially for this LSU team. You don't have to, I think, worry so much about the running backs when you have that core, especially the core group, man, is just phenomenal. Now I know we're talking running back, so we can't chase a rabbit here on wide receivers.
No, talk about whatever you want, man.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you have Jack Besh and you have Kayshon Boutte and you have Malik Neighbors, and I mean the list goes on, Brian Thomas, and the list goes on and on. But when you have those guys, it kind of helps LSU lack it. Because I got to be honest, Carter, I mentioned this earlier. Like running back is a concern for me. It is a concern for me.
Yeah.
And I know some people are like, well, we've got Noah Cain, we've got Armani. You know, the talent is there, but you're looking at three guys that don't have a whole lot of experience. I mean, Noah Cain has the experience at Penn State. You know, he had a pretty good freshman year, but as you mentioned on your breakdown, he eventually got beat out. A lot of that was because he was missing the holes. Now, he has the ability to break a lot of tackles. That was another thing you featured in your film breakdown was his ability to break tackles. And of course, John Emery's the home run guy. You know, we've seen that as well, but he's been banged up. He's had the academic issues. And then you have Armani, who had, again, a pretty good offseason, but not a lot of experience there. And so that is one of my concerns. And that makes sense why they're going to be a running back by committee. But I want to ask this question, Carter. There's so much of a diversity there. I mean, as I mentioned, Noah Cain seems more of like that bruiser, whereas as John Emery is going to be that, you know, that home run hitter type guy. Do you see, or Armani, do you see one of those three guys kind of eventually taking more of the carries this season, or do you think it's going to be kind of a all the way through, like we're just going to disperse the reps, disperse the carries, or do you see a guy eventually emerging and them kind of riding him a little bit?
Yeah, so the first thing here is, you know, John Emery's probably going to play, right? It would be preposterous if they suspended him for an entire season unless there is really something just crazy. But I'm not there's nobody knows. I say John Emery's going to play. There's no telling at this point. And honestly, I've said this a few times. I think John Emery's closer to Nicholas Brissett than he is Leonard Fournette in terms of ability, right?
I have to agree.
Yeah, and it's not, once again, it's not a knock on John. It's just I don't think he's transcendent with the football in his hands. I think he's really, really good. And he can give you a Nicholas Brissett type of season where Nicholas Brissett gained 1,000 yards his final year, but it was more based on volume than it was based on ability. He was the only rusher that year that didn't average at least 5 yards per carry, averaged 4.3. So it was because they gave him the football a lot, but he was reliable. He didn't fumble, and you knew that, you know, if he needed a yard, he would go get it for you. That's how you would, in best case scenario, view Noah Cain. You look last year, he had 2 runs of 10 yards or more. Both were on perfectly blocked plays. So he's not a home run hitter. Armani Goodwin's very interesting. You know, I went and looked at every rush Armani Goodwin had last year. And what happened to him, and it is some of the worst luck I've ever seen. He would have 4 people up front block perfectly, but one person would blow their assignment. And, you know, last year after he started his season off with the 22-yard carry, he had, I believe, 17 other touches for 40 total yards. It was something like that, which is obviously not a good clip.
Yeah.
So you want to see, you know, Armani take that next step in that you don't want to see him go down as easy. There were a few opportunities for him to break tackles, but for the most part, his blocking was just bad. And then, you know, you have, you know, Josh Williams, who is not going to break a lot of tackles, is not, you know, going to get you just this amazing whirling Derbyshire type of run, but I like him a lot. I really do, because I know the right play is going to be run more often than not, and he's played a lot and he stays healthy. It's not because I think he's special with the football in his hands. He's a former walk-on. You know, there's not many former walk-ons that are special with the football in their hands, but you know, what I would say to everyone as far as the running back position is concerned, because you don't have Fournette who can go create something on his own. You don't have Jeremy Hill or Clyde who can make some plays on their own. You need everyone around you to do well. And I do feel, especially now in a passing game, you can make a strong argument that the running back is the least important person on your offensive side of the football, especially if he's not a special talent. So what do I mean by that? Well, if Jayden's your quarterback, he's going to open up holes in the running game, in the zone read game. If you have great wide receivers on the outside, you're going to see a lot of too high, which could help out your running game with lighter boxes. It could help create numbers in the running game. So all those things are very important. And keep in mind that you have coaches who, if you go look at Notre Dame's backs over the years, they had a lot of good backs, some that lasted in the NFL, some that didn't, but they never really had somebody like truly transcendent. Yeah. And they had really good backs, right? Precise and so on and so on. But still, it was because BK had and developed the Zach Martins and the Mike McGlincheys and the Quentin Nelsons, and they had a good play action game going. So all those things are going to have to be big. But yeah, I'll say this, one final running back take, and it's fine. I'll get roasted for this. It's fine. But I have been higher on Most for a while now, even when he was committed to Texas A&M. I think Harold Perkins would be the best running back on this team if he played running back.
Wow, interesting.
And I don't think that's much of a hot take. I mean, he's Blake and I've discussed this plenty of times, and I've discussed this, in my private Discord and on my channel. He's one of the best high school prospects I've ever evaluated. He's definitely the best one we've had in a long time. And yeah, I'd have him over a lot of guys that came to LSU. Now, I didn't really start looking at evaluations the way that I had these last couple of years. So it really started for me like in 2019 when I started looking at a bunch of, high school tapes and trying to pick out and just see which players actually do turn out to be the best. And Harold's one of the best. He just pops off the tape for me. I just think he's truly special, but he's playing linebacker. And I'm not saying that they should put him at running back. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying he's that special. I think we are witnessing something pretty incredible. Now, how exactly will he fit in on either side of the ball? I've said this from the get-go. I think he's truly transcendent. I'm not smart enough to figure out what the best position is. A lot of that's going to come down to what he wants to do. And obviously he wants to be an off-ball linebacker. Yeah. But I do think he is truly great. And I do think as a true freshman, he'll find a way to win us a game that we weren't supposed to win. So I just think he's that good. I really do.
Well, hey, look, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you lost Trey Bradford.
Yeah.
John Emery is up in the air a little bit. Now you got like Nick Demas and guys like that also. But I mean, look, if you twist a couple ankles, you never know. You may see Harold Perkins get moved over there. I think
he's good.
They have the depth there a little bit more. They have more depth at linebacker, I think, than at running back, just a little bit more. But I mean, you never know, man. So I mean, you think about like Patrick Queen in the Bama game in 2019 when he caught that interception. It was like, he switched it. He switched gears from linebacker run. I'm going back to my running back days. So who knows, man?
Yeah. The thing about that though, and I've gotten a lot of comments about should Harold play running back, and I've talked to a few former players about this as well, and reached out to a few RB coaches that I know in the industry, and I sent them Harold's high school tape, and they're like, oh, he's that guy. He's going to be a great running back. At LSU, I was like, no, he's playing linebacker. And they're like, what? Really?
Wow.
What? Are you kidding me? I'd give the football to him every time. I'll say this, right? The issue, if that were to be the case, is pass protection. So in high school, they ran like a triple option kind of offense, right? And what we tend to forget is how important pass protection actually is. So if you think about this analytically, right? A pass, if you look at a stat like EPA per play or just yards per play or whatever it may be, a pass is more important than a run, right? So pass protection, especially if you below an assignment
Yep.
analytically can be worse for you than if you were to gain a 15-yard run. So here's a good example of this, right? And this was something I did on a private film study on Patreon, but I'm going to give it for you, Zach. I'm going to do it just for
All
you.
right.
Okay. So there was a play in practice where Brian Thomas Jr. did a double move and scored a touchdown, and it went viral.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happened was Micah Basketball should have leveled Miles Brennan. And
you saw the purple jersey just go whoop right behind him.
right there. And John Emery was there to help out Emery Jones because Emery was in a one-on-one there, and Emery should have done a better job blocking Micah Basketball, but he's a true freshman. But John Emery was right there to help clean it up and pick him up, right? But he missed him. He missed him as well.
Yep.
And the thing is if John Emery as a running back is the better ball carrier than the other guys, that may be the case, but that pass protection pickup is way better because that would have been a strip sack, could have potentially hurt your quarterback, could have potentially gotten scoop and scored for a touchdown the other way.
Yep.
And instead, it then also would have wiped out the 60-yard touchdown that you had on the double move right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that you have to keep in mind with the Harold Perkins thing, because there's a lot of calls and pass protection, and something that you'll see the Mike Denbrock offense do is pre-snap. He likes to move his running back around a lot. Now, it's not me saying Harold Perkins couldn't learn how to pass protect. He's obviously very capable of doing that. It's just something, it's a lot to learn, right? There's a lot of keys. There's a lot of hots. You have a lot of these DCs in the SEC. Good example of this, Zach Arnett at Mississippi State that run a lot of these exotic blitz pickups, and you got to have a running back who can pick up the scraps, if you will. So, that would be the biggest holdup. But Harold, if he was playing running back right now, he would be by far the most special with the football in his hands.